everyone, AlphaSoul here, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to go ahead and talk about Ashes of Creation in the year of 2020. So before I get started, let's just do a really quick rundown and let me tell you my thoughts on the year of 2019 last year. Now overall, I'm actually perfectly fine with the progress that Ashes of Creation has made up until this year. It is last year was a bit of a disappointment for me, and let me explain why. It's because in the very beginning of the year, I actually had my heart set on Ashes of Creation being released in the year of 2019, specifically by the end of the year. That was the interpretation at the beginning. We thought we were going to get Alpha 1 in the month of April or so. We thought that was going to last for a bit. Alpha 2 would come up quickly, and then we would have a short beta before release. And I had actually been planning on, purchasing my tickets in advance as soon as we knew when the date was for launch to go to Vegas to be at the launch party. So I planned on attending that. I had that in my head, but then we found out, quite early on that there was going to be a delay because of the server infrastructure that needed to be worked out, and the rest is history, kind of from there. So that was disappointing in that. This year, kind of going in, I guess my expectation is to have a solid alpha to be played, right? Now, from the live letter, or from the latest letter that was released, we know that Ashes of Creation is going to be demoed in at the Game Developers Conference in March. So in about 7 weeks or so, we're going to get to see. Sorry about that. We're going to get to see the Ashes of Creation Alpha 1 in action, and we also know that Alpha 1 testers will have access to Alpha 1 this year. We don't have any more specific dates around that, and the reason why I say I hope that the Alpha 1 testers are in there in a substantive measure is it would suck to see Alpha 1 begin at the end of the year, like in the second week of December or something like that. Yeah, you kept your word, but that's kind of like, a little bit far later on the spectrum. Now, of course, you don't rush these games, and obviously I have no absolute say within it, but it's just my feeling of it. I'm hoping that they release the alpha a little bit sooner than December, if you will. Yeah, so here's to hoping that. As far as Castle Siege goes, to be perfectly honest, I hope they scrap Castle Siege altogether and they don't release that as something that the players play at, just like they do with Battle Royale. And there's a reason for that I have that feeling. So looking back on the Battle Royale, right? The Battle Royale, from a developer's standpoint, and the developers of Ashes of Creation, Intrepid, has said this already, they consider that release, for them, at least from gathering data and feedback and things of that nature, a success, right? And I can totally see why that is the case. I completely agree with them in that portion. But from a player standpoint, I think most players view the Battle Royale as a failure, right? And rightfully so. If you look at the play amount and how many players have been playing, I think at most I got to play with was like 200 players in a mass 200 player test, and then like 100 was the next number, and then it was like down to 70, then 50, and it has slowly dive, and now 5 players on an actual Battle Royale match, and that's just absolute insanity, right? And there's a number of reasons for that, and I think I genuinely feel that the Ashes of Creation Battle Royale is aiming for 2 sets of users and not fulfilling the needs of each of those user groups, right? So on one hand, you have your Ashes of Creation Battle Royale players who are fans of the MMO, right? So they're playing strictly for cosmetics and basically to help out with the game, right? So once they get those cosmetics, on the other hand, they've probably tested as much as they probably should or could, and they no longer play it. Whereas a player who actually likes Battle Royales, and don't get me wrong, I actually think that the Ashes of Creation Battle Royale is a really good product itself, right? In terms of actual function, it's smooth, it's very pleasant to look at. I had actually like 3 of my friends come over, and they got to see, as I was playing Ashes of Creation, one of the first things out of their mouth was, "What game is that? That looks awesome. How do I play it?" And then when they learned more about there were only 5 players playing, they kind of were like, "Oh, okay, they were off on it." But the fidelity of the game is actually fantastic. But to a player like that, there aren't enough features to actually keep them around, right? So there's no stats, there's no stat tracking, there's no anything to work towards outside of those cosmetics, which, if they care about the Battle Royale and don't really care about the MMO and are in it to play a Battle Royale, well, they're unfulfilled. It's a subpar Battle Royale product in that respect. And so it's not really fitting or hitting any of those things. So back to Castle Siege itself. Castle Siege, I think, kind of falls into the same realm, right? I think Castle Siege will be fun for people for about a week, maybe two, and then it'll begin to nosedive exactly like the Battle Royale has. And I think it'll severely disappoint some people and continue to further hurt the reputation of Ashes of Creation. Now, a lot of this reputation hurt, I believe, is going to be water under the bridge as soon as they have a good MMO and a functioning MMO that continues to build upon itself. I believe that those problems will solve itself. But I don't think that the Battle Royale or that the Castle Siege will be a remedy that people are thinking it'll be. Quite simply, I just think it's going to go the way of the Battle Royale, right? And for that, I just genuinely don't care about it, and it would be my preference, actually, if they just completely ignored that and potentially did their Castle Siege testing in the alpha as opposed to this separate mode. Like, gather players and do a testing there, or warp them off to a separate instance, do the testing there, or even have like a subgroup or a group of players that have access to the alpha one test on a separate. I just don't think you should release that product to the public, if you will. Yeah, that's just me. So this year, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Game Developers Conference, seeing the Alpha 1, and I'm really looking forward to Alpha 1 in general. Now, we know that they will not announce dates unless they're absolutely positively sure, but it would be nice if things progress to a point where we got more than just Alpha 1 in this particular year, that we got like Alpha 1, Alpha 2 maybe. Here's hoping, and we could potentially look for a launch in the summer of 2021 or somewhere like that, but wishful thinking. All right, so that's pretty much it, guys. That's my thought on Ashes of Creation in 2020 right now. There will more than likely be a live stream coming up for Ashes of Creation in the next week or so. I think it's about that time for them to announce it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, thank you guys. Take care of yourselves. Let me know what your thoughts are on, obviously, Ashes of Creation in 2020. Take care, guys.